So what's going on, everybody? Howard here. Figured I'd change things up a little bit today from my normal videos. Figured we'd get out the shop and get outside and try and do something a little bit different, see how y'all like it. So today I'm going to be telling y'all about probably the most frightening experience I've ever had out in the forest. Now, to give you a little bit of a background, I've been in the woods my entire life. 9 years old, my daddy started taking me out hunting on bigger trips, not just squirrel hunting trips, you know. Daddy had me out in the woods until I was old enough to where I could kind of start to go out on my own. Once I got into college, I did some volunteer work for the National Park Service and the Bureau of Land Management. So that had me out even deeper into the forests. And after that, my work currently has me out in the forest up to 2 weeks at a time. So I've been out there, spent a lot of time out there. Now, this particular story happened in the fall of 2015. There was a group of buddies I was with, two older men who at the time I would have considered mentors, a younger fella who would later end up becoming my brother-in-law, and then another older gentleman that nobody really seemed to care about. So the group of us, we would all get together and we rented a cabin, and we did this for several years. We would rent a cabin, and then from there we would split out into the forest where we were doing some deer hunting. So we would all get up in the mornings and everybody would kind of split off in their own directions and spend the majority of the day outside. And then in the evening, once it got dark, we'd all meet up back at the cabin. We were hunting in a national forest, and the area that I really liked to go to was on the northeastern boundary line of the forest. And to get to this particular spot that I like to hunt, it was about a mile drive or a mile walk down a dirt road. There were no four-wheelers or ATVs, UTVs allowed in this particular forest. So once you got off the paved road, everything was by foot. Now, this area that I liked to hunt was a lot of hardwoods, and I had found a pine thicket, and I noticed that the deer like to come in and out of that in the mornings and the afternoons. And so I had a climbing stand, and I'd go set up on the outside edge of this pine thicket, and I would usually see a pretty decent amount of activity out there. To get to this particular area, there's only one way in and one way out. To come in from any other direction other than where I was coming in from, it's going to be at least 10 miles on foot to the nearest road in the opposite direction. So one evening, I'm sitting up in the stand. It's just starting to get dark, and I had a deer walk under my stand. I wasn't going to shoot it at first, and then I just went ahead and decided, you walk too close, it's the end for you. So I took my shot. Deer takes off into the thicket. I waited a couple minutes and realized that it was getting dark, and if I had any opportunity of finding the deer that afternoon, I was going to have to go and start trailing it now. So I climbed down. It's probably been about 15 minutes after I shot, and I'm looking all around on the ground for any kind of sign where maybe some leaves kicked up, or I'm looking for maybe a blood trail, some tracks, anything. I'm not seeing nothing. Now, I've got my headlamp on, and I'm looking at the ground. I'm not really paying attention to what's going on around me. My situational awareness is at an all-time low. I've got one thing on my mind, and that's recovering that deer. So out of my peripheral, I see this headlamp, or what looks to be a headlamp. There is a light, and it is about 5.5, 6 feet off the ground. What, you know, the height you would imagine a normal person's headlamp to be. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, you know, there's another hunter out here I don't want him to get a bead on where my deer stand, or the tree that my deer stand is in, because I wasn't planning on taking the deer stand out that afternoon. I was going to come back early in the morning and hunt that same area. And so I didn't want this guy to get a location of where my deer stand was. So I clicked my headlamp off and I just kind of crouched down real low. And I've got my rifle in my lap and I'm just watching this headlamp. Now, also keep in mind, from the road that I walked into where my deer stand was, this guy is deeper into the woods. So all I know is I've got this floating light coming at me. I can't make out any type of figure. It's so dark at this point that I can't see any kind of silhouette. So literally all I see is this headlamp, or this light, floating about 6 feet off of the ground. And so I just kind of sit still and I'm watching, thinking, what's this person gonna do? And I can start to tell that that headlamp is moving closer towards me. Now it's dead quiet out there and I can't hear any leaves crunching that would indicate steps coming towards me. And then I finally decided, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and chamber another round into my rifle. Worst case scenario. I was starting to get a little panicky, and then all of a sudden the light goes out, and I'm just dead set checking out that direction, and I can't see anything, can't see anybody, no figures, nothing. And I just got the feeling, hey, you need to get out of here. It was probably about a 250-yard dash from the woods back to the road that I walked in on. And I kept checking, looking back over my shoulder. Never saw a light, never saw a figure, never heard any noises. But to this day, I have no idea what I ran into. I would like to think that it was a person that maybe came in behind me and looped around and got around me without me knowing it. But whenever I got back to my truck, there was nobody else out there. And as far as I know, there's no way anybody should have been able to come in from that far out in the other direction. So give me an idea. What do you think? What did I run into? Was it something paranormal, or what is it, just a lost hunter, to say the least? I figured he would have hollered for help if he was lost, or I don't know. Drop your opinions down in the comments. If you like what we're doing here on the channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll be back to do more things.